This video is my second preview of the Ravens-Lions Monday Night Football matchup in Week 3. And what I'm going to do here is take a look at two players, one from each team, that is not only fun and exciting to watch, but I think bring a similar flavor or a similar style to the game. And that's Kyle Hamilton for the Ravens, Brian Branch for the Lions. I consider myself lucky, blessed even, to be able to watch film of them every week and then try to bring you some of the things that I understand or point out to you maybe things that the broadcast didn't mention. I didn't have to look very hard just through 2 weeks of film for each team to find plays that I think present their skills in a similar way. We're going to focus, we'll go back and forth between Hamilton and Branch, and I didn't have to look long to find similar reactions for these guys and similar ability to impact the game no matter where they line up. This is last week against the Browns, obviously, at home, and he's the field side safety, he being Kyle Hamilton. The focus here is going to be the snag concept by the tight end and the flat route by the other tight end, Harold Fanning Jr. You can see Flacco is looking to that side immediately. Hamilton is one of those guys that I think just does a great job of moving from the quarterback read and the routes that are in front of him really quickly and expertly. Him and Branch both, they remind me of like a dog in a neighborhood that you know where they are, you know what house they live in, and unfortunately when you're leaving your school bus every day, you have to walk by them. So you try to figure out a way to outsmart them or be quiet walking past their house or maybe even go around the other side of the street. And in this case, you hope that, a team doesn't have two of them, right? A Hamilton and a Branch on the other side. Got considerable range, if you ask me. The ball can go to the other side of the field like it does here for Branch. This is a run play compared to a pass play on the snap that I showed you for the Ravens, but hopefully you get the point. You've got guys with exceptional range to get all the way across the field, and actually in this case, it's a run play by Swift to the outside. He ends up kind of bouncing outside of Alex Anzalone. Branch is the guy that makes first contact. I think that's notable, and I think it compares along the same lines with the play that I just showed you from the Ravens win over the Browns in Week 2. You get the sense to me that no matter where you line up, you really can't get away from these guys. They're two brilliant football players, in my opinion, who impact the game no matter where the ball ends up. This tight end is looping all the way around. He's going to end up getting to the outside of Anzalone. Essentially, it's like a wrong arm by Aiden Hutchinson, number one. He spills it, and then Anzalone ends up on the inside. You can see he's been pinned by that tight end, and the ball is already broken outside of the tackle box, and Brian Branch is still on the back side of it, still, in fact, off to the side where the quarterback is possibly booting, and he's the first player to make contact. Now, Jack Campbell also ended up having a lineman get out to him and get in his face. The point in showing you these two plays initially packaged together is that they have great range and a willingness, in fact, inability to not run to the football on every single play. It's not that they get to the ball with great pursuit and arrive with an attitude. It's that they're incapable of not showing great pursuit on pretty much every play, or at least the ones I've watched in their young careers. Hamilton, again, spot shadowed. He plays on the left side of the defense. Branch tends to move around a little bit more. Detroit kind of exists or majors in one high safety coverages. The Ravens are oftentimes setting up in a two high safety coverage and then rotating post snap like you see here. Hamilton's going to spin down. Starks, the right side safety, is going to roll to center field. This is basically a cover two variation, if you ask me, that ends up being a screen to the running back to the field. Now, Hamilton makes a great play here, don't get me wrong, but he's also put in position by the call, by dropping him down. And then I think Roquan is supposed to spin over. Owe looks like he's supposed to peel back to the hook to curl. And then the boundary side nickel defender, the nickel defender set up what looks like to the boundary. The ball's actually in the middle of the field, is Marlon Humphrey. So it should be a cover three. Hamilton's kind of spinning down. The unpredictability that the Ravens offer in terms of coverages, and I think is a big aspect, well, on a week-to-week basis, first of all, but in this particular matchup as well. Hamilton spot shadow down here. A little play fake by Flacco. And you lose a little bit of a sense of Hamilton's movement because he ends up off screen here, but you get the idea. Anything quick, anything direct, Hamilton has always been able to react to quickly and be the first guy at contact. Moving back to Branch, trying to present a somewhat similar play. This is to his side. It's a run concept to DeAndre Swift. This is, of course, the force fumble into the boundary. It's a little bit of a buck sweep flavor. You got two pulling linemen, both of the guards, Jackson and Thuney. And then what I love about this from a Branch perspective is he's flat-footed and he's got great eye discipline. He hardly ever ends up looking over here to the opposite side of the field. He's got great discipline, if you ask me, from an eye discipline standpoint. He, in fact, hits this thing so hard that his mouthpiece flies up in the air. It's the forced fumble. You can kind of see his mouthpiece right there. The green mouthpiece, the one that he doesn't actually have his mouth, that's kind of seated on his helmet. I guess it's an Alabama thing. He's a heavy hitter. He's a pure baller. I think him and Hamilton, don't get me wrong, would both fit in the 90s football mentality because they'll play downhill. They'll play really physical. Obviously, I went and found plays here that were conceptually similar, right? That was the design. But the point is, I didn't have to look very hard to do so. They both have what I would say is like 8 degrees of effectiveness, meaning they can move forward and backward, laterally, sideways, right and left, or at angles in either direction. 3/4 angle to the right and the left, and then angles moving backwards as well. And I don't think they lose effectiveness in either one of those directions. Branch has just got great tracking ability, just like Hamilton, if you ask me. Recognizes where this ball is going to go and what he's got to do to fit outside of this tight end and then adjust to the offensive lineman's path. You can see that he's got his head and shoulders directly on the football. We used to call it, bite the ball. Knocks it out of Swift's hands. It's a huge moment. I think Detroit actually ended up wasting it and missing a field goal on the ensuing offensive possession. Going to focus on their coverage ability in terms of Hamilton and Branch. Talk about some man stuff. Again, the Ravens system, their structure is a little bit different. They go right and left with their DBs. And in this case, like I said, Kyle Hamilton is the left side safety. He's located into the boundary this time. This will be a really interesting dynamic or element with the Ravens-Lions matchup. Basically, when the ball is on the right hash for the Lions, that means Hamilton is into the boundary. I think they're in a much better position to defend boundary side run concepts and also boundary side pass plays either to Jahmyr Gibbs or Sam Laporta. Here's the route structure that you're going to get. He's covering a wide receiver here. This is Jerry Jeudy. They've inverted, they being the Browns, they've inverted with the tight end on the outside. He's going to run an in cut against the corner, Nate Wiggins. There will be some pressure here from the top side, Tavius Robinson. But watch how Hamilton is matched up with this route for Jeudy, who's a wide receiver. He's kind of bringing it to the outside, and then he's putting his foot in the ground right now, he being Jeudy, to take this route up the field. There's pressure on Flacco, which really destroys it, and that's kind of my point that I talked about a moment ago. Anything that is direct flow against Hamilton, he'll be all over. If you're going to beat him, I'm not even saying that's got to be a double move. Jeudy does obviously get a little bit of separation here on the backside of it. We would expect that, right, to be matched up against a wide receiver. From a strong safety standpoint, you're at an agility deficit. Hamilton's feet are great, just like Branch. Perhaps they're different with the way they cover people. Branch might tend to be a little bit more physical, but I think they're both among the best safeties in the league when you ask them to cover someone man-to-man, regardless of whether it's a tight end, wide receiver, or a running back. Again, I'm intentionally trying to package plays together that link their skills, if you will. I think this is a second quarter play. It's a 2nd and 16. The same guy, Brian Branch, that forced the fumble on the previous possession is now covering the Bears' best receiver, their most talented guy at least, Rome Odunze, on a drag route across the field. It's a man coverage situation, and you can see that Caleb Williams is looking there immediately. By the way, the Lions are bringing one of their preferred blitzes, meaning both inside linebackers are blitzing, trying to create a 2-on-1 against the inside linebacker. Against the running back. Williams actually does deliver the ball to Odunze. Branch is right there in coverage. There's a ton of space. Look at the responsibility that he has, meaning he's covering like a corner. He's not given any help here at all. Has to run with Odunze all the way across the field. I have no idea how Branch is not given credit for 1 or even 2 forced fumbles on this play. The only one, to my knowledge, he was given credit for was the one against Swift on the previous possession. As impressive as both of these guys are in man coverage or match coverage schemes, if you will, both have exceptional range and awareness on the quarterback end zone. Now, the Lions don't play as much zone as the Ravens do, certainly. And Kyle Hamilton, I think, really can take away 1.5 zones. Here's the concept that the Browns are going for. I think we're in a first quarter possession for Cleveland. A little bit of a play action fake by Flacco. And then I also think that the Ravens corner down here, Nate Wiggins, generally did a really good job in this game of kind of folding back and hanging out between routes, if you will. He gives a little bit of a sneak peek. I'm talking about Wiggins here. But what I really love is Kyle Hamilton's feet. For a big guy, as 235, 240-ish, whatever he is, great feet and ability to turn and then break by putting his foot in the ground and break on this route. I think Flacco essentially just throws this one away because he recognizes Hamilton is all over it. Also, Tavius Robinson with another quarterback pressure against Flacco. If you're not sure of who that is, if you're a Lions fan and you've watched for this long, first of all, thank you. Second of all, Tavius Robinson is a guy who's growing in the Ravens' defensive structure, played extremely well last season against the run, and seems to, at least from last week's film, be growing in terms of his ability to win in the pass rush and get to the quarterback. While not a similar play conceptually to the one that I just showed you, essentially where Hamilton is taking away a half side of the field for Joe Flacco, who I think chose to throw the football away because he had great recognition during the play of who he was dealing with. Essentially, Kyle Hamilton is often avoided. This is a blitz from Brian Branch that I think you may see in tonight's game. So lined up to the boundary with the ball on the right hash. If they're not bringing two inside linebackers, they being the Lions, they're bringing an inside linebacker and oftentimes a nickel or the strong safety, in this case Branch, who's rolled up. And if you can get him one-on-one with a running back, he just plays with such force and such ferocity. He's going to win these matchups the overwhelming majority of the time. He's one of the few guys across the league with a high number of interceptions, a high number of sacks and forced fumbles and tackles, I believe throughout 2+ years. I think his numbers actually match up with like Ed Reed and a couple of other historic guys in that regard. Here's the blitz. Keep this in mind if you see the Ravens line up with the ball on either hash and Branch go into the boundary. Both inside linebackers blitzing here. Instead of both inside linebackers blitzing, they're only bringing one. And then Jack Campbell is dropping back kind of like to the middle of the low hole. The running back has to peel over to pick up Branch. It's Swift, like I said, since the right guard has picked up Anzalone. And this is one of the things that I think the Lions almost kind of have to do tomorrow or tonight, because they're not able to generate pass rush in the same way from an organic four-man rush platform like the Browns were in week 2. Basically, I expect these two guys to make game-changing plays on a weekly basis. At minimum, if they don't make a game-changing play, they're deterring the quarterback from throwing to their side. Now, in the case of Caleb Williams and some of those man situations last week, he threw the football anyway, and I think you've got evidence of Brian Branch being able to cover Odunze, a wide receiver who's having a really nice start to the season. Branch provides excellent coverage in man. Hamilton does so as well, oftentimes from an off-coverage platform. The difference between them, or one of the main differences I would say, is that Branch is often pressed up on a wide receiver or a tight end, and Hamilton's playing from more at depth because the Ravens' structure, their defensive system, I should say, is one that is predicated on removing your ability to recognize the coverage pre-snap. To use a combat sports analogy, I think these guys are like Muay Thai fighters. They're not boxers. They're not kickboxers. They're not wrestlers / grapplers. They're guys who can hit you with their hands, their elbows, their knees, or their feet. Essentially 8 points of contact for them. And they're just super talented guys who are willing to show up at the football with attitude, make plays on a weekly basis. I think Hamilton deserves the notoriety that he gets across the league. I was really disappointed that Brian Branch was not among the top 100 players in the NFL from last season. I think it was deserving of that based on 2024. But nonetheless, I expect the same type of production and impact from him in 2025. To me, these are the types of players that you as a quarterback generally try to avoid. Meaning, similar to the Flacco play that I showed you, if Hamilton is in position to deal with that route, I believe it was by Judy, then you leave him alone completely and just don't even go over there. And I think Brian Branch falls in the same vein. He's got that type of ability to act as a deterrent to the quarterback. Nonetheless, there's some times where teams don't have a choice and they have to attack him or Hamilton. I think those guys are exceptional at making the other team's quarterback pay. I will have hopefully a third preview out sometime around lunchtime on the matchup between Amon-Ra St. Brown and Marlon Humphrey. I think it's a pivotal matchup, as well as the Amik Robertson, Zay Flowers collision. Both of those slot wide receivers, Flowers and St. Brown, are off to fantastic starts in 2025. Meanwhile, the nickel DBs, Marlon Humphrey and Amik Robertson, I couldn't think more highly of from the standpoint of their coverage versatility as a nickel defender, but also being able to move from a nickel DB to an outside corner if their team needs them. In any case, if you enjoyed this film study preview of Monday night's collision between the Ravens and the Lions, then please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, if you think fans of either team would enjoy my thoughts with the film that I did display about Hamilton and Branch, then please consider finding a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.